Hey everyone, it's Charlotte here. I need to get this off my chest because I'm still processing what happened on New Year's Eve. I'm recording this at 3 a.m. on January 2nd, and I literally can't stop crying. This was supposed to be the best night of my life, and instead, it became the night that changed everything. So, let me back up a bit. I'm 28 years old, I work in digital marketing, and I've always been the friend who goes all out for celebrations. Like, I'm talking themed birthday parties, elaborate Friendsgiving dinners, the works. My apartment isn't huge, it's a 2-bedroom in the city, but it's got this amazing rooftop access that I share with only 3 other units in my building. About 2 months ago, in early November, I decided I was going to throw the ultimate New Year's Eve party. I wanted to do something spectacular, because honestly, 2025 had been rough. I'd been passed over for a promotion. My long-term relationship had ended in March, and I just felt like I needed to end the year on a high note and start the new year surrounded by people I loved. I sent out invitations to about 40 people, close friends, some coworkers, a few acquaintances I wanted to get to know better. I budgeted $3,000 for this party, which I know sounds insane, but I'd been saving up specifically for this. I hired a bartender friend to make signature cocktails, ordered catering from this upscale place downtown, bought decorations, rented heaters for the rooftop, even hired a photographer to capture the midnight moment. I wanted it to be perfect. The guest list included my core friend group, my best friend Madison, who I've known since college, my work friends Trevor and Jasmine, my neighbor and good friend David, and my cousin Emma, who I'm super close with. Then there were about 35 other people, friends of friends, colleagues, Madison's boyfriend Ryan, and some people from my gym and book club. Oh, and I also invited Marcus. Marcus is this guy I met at a coffee shop in October. We'd been on maybe 5 or 6 dates, nothing official, but there was definitely chemistry. He was charming, funny, had this smile that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. I was excited for him to meet my friends and see this side of me, the hostess, the party planner, the person who brings people together. The week leading up to the party, I was running around like crazy. I deep cleaned my entire apartment, did multiple grocery runs, confirmed RSVPs, created a whole playlist that would take us from 8 p.m. to well past midnight. I barely slept the night before because I was so anxious and excited. December 31st finally arrived. I spent the entire day setting up. I strung up fairy lights on the rooftop, set up a champagne tower, arranged the food stations, put out the decorations. By 7 p.m., I was exhausted but thrilled. I put on this gorgeous emerald green dress I bought specifically for the occasion, did my makeup, and waited for my guests to arrive. The energy was immediately amazing. The music was perfect. People were complimenting the setup, the food was a hit, and the signature cocktails, these champagne-based drinks with pomegranate and rosemary, were disappearing fast. Madison arrived with Ryan and immediately pulled me aside to tell me how incredible everything looked. I felt like I was glowing. Marcus showed up around 9:15 and my heart literally skipped a beat. He looked so good and he brought me these beautiful flowers and a bottle of expensive champagne. He kissed me on the cheek and said, "You've outdone yourself, Charlotte. This is incredible." I introduced him to a bunch of people and he seemed to fit right in, which made me so happy. By 10 p.m., the party was in full swing. We had about 35 people there. Some folks had canceled last minute, but honestly, it was the perfect number for the space. Everyone was dancing, laughing, taking photos. I remember thinking, this is it. This is exactly what I wanted. Around 10:30, I noticed Marcus talking to this girl I didn't recognize. She was beautiful. Long dark hair, wearing this stunning red dress. I figured she was someone's +1 and didn't think much of it. I was busy making sure everyone had drinks and was having a good time. But then 11 p.m. rolled around, and I realized I hadn't seen Marcus in a while. I checked the rooftop, the living room, my bedroom where people were leaving their coats. Nothing. I asked Madison if she'd seen him, and she said she saw him go downstairs about 20 minutes ago. That's when I started to feel this weird pit in my stomach. I went downstairs to the building's main floor, thinking maybe he'd stepped out for a phone call or some air. The building has this small lobby area with some seating, and that's when I saw them. Marcus was there with the girl in the red dress, and they were kissing. Not like a friendly kiss, like full-on making out on the lobby couch. I literally froze. I couldn't process what I was seeing. And then Marcus looked up and saw me. The expression on his face, it was like he'd been caught, but there was also this smugness to it that I can't even describe. I just stood there, and finally I managed to say, "What the hell, Marcus?" And this is where it gets so much worse. The girl pulled away from him and looked at me, and she said, "Oh my God, you must be Charlotte. I'm so sorry." Then she turned to Marcus and said, "You told me you broke up with her last week." My brain was trying to catch up.
Broke up with me?
We weren't even officially together. Marcus stood up, and instead of apologizing or explaining, he got defensive. He said, "Charlotte, come on. We went on a few dates. It's not like we were exclusive. You never asked to be exclusive?" I was shaking at this point. "You're at my party, Marcus, a party I invited you to, and you brought someone else and started hooking up with her in my building?" The girl, her name was Vanessa, I found out later, looked mortified. She said to Marcus, "You told me this was a friend's party and that you were going solo." Then she looked at me and said, "I am so sorry. I had no idea. He told me he was single." Marcus actually rolled his eyes and said, "This is exactly why I didn't want to have the relationship talk with you, Charlotte. You're being dramatic about nothing." I felt tears starting to form, but I was also furious. I told him to leave. He laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Fine, but you're being ridiculous." Then he and Vanessa left together, her apologizing profusely as they walked out. I stood in that lobby shaking and crying for probably 5 minutes before I realized I had a party full of people upstairs waiting for midnight. I tried to pull myself together, wiped my tears, and went back upstairs. Madison immediately knew something was wrong. She pulled me aside and I told her what happened. She was furious and wanted to do something, but I begged her not to make a scene. It was 11:40, and I didn't want to ruin everyone else's night, so I put on a fake smile and pretended everything was fine. We did the countdown. Everyone cheered at midnight. People hugged me and told me what an amazing party it was, and I just kept smiling and nodding, even though I felt completely hollow inside. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Around 12:30 a.m., right after midnight, I was in my kitchen refilling ice buckets when my cousin Emma came in looking panicked. She said, "Charlotte, you need to come to the rooftop right now." But I followed her up and there was this huge commotion. Apparently, 2 guys I barely knew, friends of someone's +1, had gotten into a massive argument that turned physical. They'd been drinking heavily, and it escalated quickly. During the fight, one of them crashed into the table with my champagne tower, and the whole thing shattered. Glass everywhere. One guy was bleeding from his hand. David, my neighbor, was trying to break it up. And Trevor was on the phone with building security. Other guests were filming on their phones. It was chaos. Building security arrived within minutes, and they were not happy. Turns out, rooftop parties after 11 p.m. are technically against building policy. Something I'd completely forgotten about, or maybe never fully registered. The security guard said there had been noise complaints from other residents starting around 10:30. The 2 guys who were fighting were escorted out. The security guard took my information and said the building manager would be contacting me about the incident and the policy violation. My heart just sank. After that, the vibe of the party completely died. People started leaving pretty quickly. By 1:30 a.m., it was just me, Madison, Ryan, and David helping me clean up. There was glass everywhere, food trampled into the rooftop floor, and my apartment was trashed. I finally just broke down crying, like full-on sobbing. Madison held me while I cried, and I kept saying, this was supposed to be perfect. Everything was supposed to be perfect. The next day, New Year's Day, I woke up with the worst headache, partially from crying and partially from the stress. I checked my phone and had a message from my building manager requesting a meeting to discuss the incident. I also had a Venmo request from Vanessa, Marcus's date, for $40 with the note, "For the Uber we shared. Hope you're okay." The audacity of this man to make his side piece Venmo me for their shared ride home. I also discovered that someone had posted videos from the fight on social media. In one of the videos, you can clearly see me in the background looking absolutely devastated. Several mutual acquaintances had already texted me asking what happened, if I was okay, and commenting on the drama at my party. I met with my building manager on January 2nd, yesterday. The meeting was awful. She was professional but firm. The rooftop policy violation combined with the noise complaints and the physical altercation meant I was being issued a formal warning. One more incident, and they could pursue eviction. She also said I was responsible for any damages to the rooftop area, which the building would assess and bill me for. I'm looking at potentially hundreds or even thousands of dollars in damages, on top of the $3,000 I already spent on the party. But honestly, the money isn't even the worst part. It's everything else. Marcus texted me yesterday with a message that said, "Hey, hope you're not still mad about NYE. If you'd been clearer about what you wanted from me, maybe things would have gone differently. No hard feelings." I blocked his number immediately. I've been replaying the entire night in my head over and over. All that planning, all that money, all that excitement. And for what? To be humiliated by a guy I was seeing, to have my party end in a fight, to get in trouble with my building, to have people gossiping about me online. Madison has been amazing. She came over this morning with coffee and breakfast and let me cry and vent. She keeps telling me that what happened with Marcus wasn't my fault, that he's a terrible person, and that the fight wasn't something I could have prevented. David, my neighbor, also stopped by to check on me and said he'd talked to the building manager on my behalf since he witnessed everything. But I still feel so stupid. I feel stupid for inviting Marcus. I feel stupid for spending so much money. I feel stupid for not knowing about the rooftop policy. I feel stupid for thinking this party would somehow fix my year or make me feel better about everything. The worst part is seeing people post their photos from the party on Instagram. In all the photos from before midnight, I look so happy. You can see it in my face. I thought everything was perfect. And then there are no photos of me after that because I was either crying or forcing a fake smile. I'm also worried about my reputation. I work in a relatively small industry and several of my coworkers were at the party. I don't want to be known as the girl who threw the party where the big fight happened, or the girl who got publicly humiliated by her date. I'm terrified this is going to follow me professionally. And personally, I feel so lonely. Here I am, starting 2026, and instead of feeling hopeful and refreshed, I feel defeated. The party was supposed to be this celebration of resilience and new beginnings, and instead, it highlighted every way I've failed this year. I invited people into my home, spent my savings trying to create a beautiful experience, and it all fell apart. The guy I was excited about turned out to be a complete jerk who didn't respect me at all. My perfect party ended with a fight, broken glass, and building violations. And now I'm facing financial consequences and potential housing issues. Madison has been amazing. She came over this morning with coffee and breakfast and let me cry and vent. She keeps telling me that what happened with Marcus wasn't my fault, that he's a terrible person, and that the fight wasn't something I could have prevented. David, my neighbor, also stopped by to check on me and said he'd talked to the building manager on my behalf since he witnessed everything. But I still feel so stupid. I feel stupid for inviting Marcus. I feel stupid for spending so much money. I feel stupid for not knowing about the rooftop policy. I feel stupid for thinking this party would somehow fix my year or make me feel better about everything. The worst part is seeing people post their photos from the party on Instagram. In all the photos from before midnight, I look so happy. You can see it in my face. I thought everything was perfect. And then there are no photos of me after that because I was either crying or forcing a fake smile. I'm also worried about my reputation. I work in a relatively small industry and several of my coworkers were at the party. I don't want to be known as the girl who threw the party where the big fight happened, or the girl who got publicly humiliated by her date. I'm terrified this is going to follow me professionally. And personally, I feel so lonely. Here I am, starting 2026, and instead of feeling hopeful and refreshed, I feel defeated. The party was supposed to be this celebration of resilience and new beginnings, and instead, it highlighted every way I've failed this year. I invited people into my home, spent my savings trying to create a beautiful experience, and it all fell apart. The guy I was excited about turned out to be a complete jerk who didn't respect me at all. My perfect party ended with a fight, broken glass, and building violations. And now I'm facing financial consequences and potential housing issues. I keep asking myself, what could I have done differently? Should I not have invited Marcus? Should I have been more careful about the guest list? Should I have double-checked the building policies? Should I have stopped serving alcohol earlier? Madison says I can't blame myself for other people's bad behavior, but it's hard not to. This was my party, my responsibility, and it went so wrong. I also can't stop thinking about that moment when I saw Marcus kissing Vanessa, the way my stomach dropped. The way I felt so small and stupid. The way he looked at me like I was overreacting to something that didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. I've been doing a lot of crying these past 2 days. Crying about Marcus, crying about the party, crying about the money, crying about starting another year feeling like a failure. I'm exhausted from crying, but I can't seem to stop. I don't know what happens next. I have to wait to hear about the damage assessment from my building. I have to figure out how to rebuild my savings. I have to face people at work and in my social circle who were there and witnessed everything. I have to figure out how to move forward from this humiliation. And I have to somehow make peace with the fact that my perfect New Year's Eve party, the thing I planned for months, the thing I poured my heart and money into, became the worst night of my year. So yeah, that's why I'm crying on New Year's. That's why I'm recording this at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, replaying everything in my mind. That's why 2026 already feels like a disaster, even though it's only 2 days old. If anyone has advice or has been through something similar, please let me know, because right now, I'm sitting here in my trashed apartment, financially stressed, emotionally devastated, and I don't know how to pick up the pieces. I guess the only silver lining, if you can even call it that, is that 26 can only go up from here. Thanks for listening, everyone. I just needed to get this out. If you've made it this far, thank you for hearing my story. And if you're going through something similar, just know you're not alone. Sometimes the things we plan so carefully still fall apart, and that's not always our fault. I'm Charlotte, and I'm going to figure out how to get through this, one day at a time.